Hey everybody, let's talk about how to improve your communication skills. You know, whether you're looking for a job right now or you're currently gainfully employed, the biggest thing that's going to help you find success in your personal life and your professional life is having great communication skills. And in this video, I'm going to share with you one very simple tip that's going to have a huge impact on making you a great communicator. So a couple of weeks ago, I got a comment on one of my YouTube videos, and the comment started by saying, "This isn't a nasty comment." And you can imagine what came afterwards. What came afterwards was what most reasonable people would consider to be a pretty nasty comment. And then a few days before that, I got another comment on one of my YouTube videos that started with, "Here's some constructive feedback," and then proceeded to dissolve into a series of insults and a tirade about everything I'm doing wrong. Now, rule number one, disclaimers don't work. If you have something negative to say, putting a disclaimer in front of it saying, like, don't get offended, that doesn't really help. Okay. In fact, it sort of can amplify the message because it leads one to conclude that they probably should be offended because that's the reaction that the person talking is expecting. Listen, if you haven't figured this out by now, normal human beings, okay, we don't like to be told when we're wrong, okay? Even when we're wrong. If someone tells us you're wrong, we don't like that, okay? A lot of times people think that, once I explain to this person how they've gone wrong, then they will immediately fix it. And they'll see things my way, and they'll do much better, and we'll all be friends, and the world will be a happier place. That pretty much never happens, okay? I guess it could happen if you're dealing with some kind of sociopath, but for normal human beings, we tend to get defensive, we get offended, we feel insulted, and then when that immediately happens, we stop considering anything that the person is telling us with an open mind. We pretty much close ourselves to listening to anything they've got to say. This is human nature. And people who are great communicators, we know this and we accept this as a simple truth. Okay? So that's one reason why putting a disclaimer in front of a very negative, cutting remark that might be insulting, that doesn't work. Okay? It doesn't soften the blow at all. If anything else, it amplifies it. Now, the thing is, it's super easy to communicate something positive, okay? What I have seen at all levels of organizations and different types of employees in different industries is that when you have something positive to communicate, people are usually pretty good at that. It's pretty hard to screw that up, okay? So if you have something positive to say to somebody, it doesn't take a lot of skill to communicate that, have them understand it, and have them accept what you're saying, okay? Where the real challenge is trying to communicate something negative. Now, this is where real communication skills come into play, because people who don't have very good communication skills, this is where they fall flat. Instead of communicating the point to the person in a way that they can understand, instead, they end up insulting the person, making that person hate them and never want to listen to anything else they have to say ever again, and then dismiss what they're saying, which is unsuccessful communication. The person hasn't got the point, the person doesn't believe you, and the working relationship, if there was one before, is no longer there, okay? Now, it's funny, because that brings me to my second example here, apart from YouTube comments. And that is something that hopefully a lot of you guys have heard of before. It's called the sandwich method, right? A lot of people know the sandwich method. It's kind of like communication skills 101. But so many people misunderstand what the sandwich method actually is. If you're not familiar with it, the sandwich method is something where if you have to say something bad, you have to communicate something negative, okay? The sandwich method says, put something good in front of it and put something good after it. And in the middle, you have your negative comment, right? Okay. Now, in theory, this is supposed to soften the blow so that the person doesn't get offended, doesn't get insulted. They accept what you're saying and they take it to heart. Okay. That's the alleged purpose of this. But almost on a daily basis, I see people totally misusing this, misunderstanding it. Let me give you an example. I have heard managers say something to the effect of, well, I think it's really great how you show up for work on time most days. However, I think that most of the work you do is terrible, and unless something improves immediately, we're going to have a serious conversation about your future here. But I also want you to know that I really appreciate the way that you turn your computer off at the end of the workday so that you save on electricity and thus the environment. It's great to see employees care about the environment. Good night. That's not effective, okay? Just sandwiching your cutting, rude, poorly phrased remark between two token good things that don't really matter doesn't make it any less impactful. The receiver still gets insulted. They still don't believe you. They still get offended, and they don't believe you when you say your thing. They challenge it. So it's pretty ineffective. Okay? If you want to actually communicate something to somebody and it has to be negative, okay, there's real skill in being able to do this. I want to give you one last point about this. In a lot of organizations across a lot of industries, I've seen people that, because they can't do this, they shy away from it. They create a situation where they just don't want to mention anything negative because they don't know how to communicate something negative in a positive way. And consequently, their solution is to just never say anything negative. Now, I can tell you from the point of view of an executive and a business owner, this is not the type of communication that we want in an organization. Okay, people who can't master this, there's limits to how capable they're advertising that they are. Every time you can't do this, you're basically having a red flag that says, I don't have good communication skills. And the problem with having people like that at all levels is that it leads to a whole ton of bad things. For a start, you can never improve, because in order to improve something, you have to first admit what's not working very well and precisely what's wrong with it. And if people can't communicate that without insulting other people, that creates a real problem. Okay? So you're probably wondering, okay, so what do we do then? How do we phrase stuff? Well, I'll give you an example. Okay? Instead of saying, that sucks, okay, saying something negative about something, okay, a really easy and obvious thing to do is to say, it wasn't bad, but what would really make it awesome is if you could do this, okay? You focus on the potential it has, how good it could be if they were to make this change. You don't focus on how bad the thing that they're doing is. You focus on how good it could be if they were to do a certain thing, okay? That's very simple to do. If you can phrase your points of improvement or your negative comments in this format, I personally guarantee that the receiver, first of all, will not be as offended, if offended at all. Usually they won't be if you do this right. They will be much more receptive to what you're saying, and they will, first of all, they'll have a much more favorable opinion of you and relationship with you, and they will want to work with you to implement the thing that you're calling them out on. Okay? That's the first step towards great communication skills. Just this one little change can make a huge difference. First of all, it can make you much more likable. Secondly, it can make you much more promotable because you understand the value of having good working relationships with people while at the same time being able to talk about things that should be improved. Okay? And a lot of my technical friends out there, a lot of engineers and accountants, a lot of you guys might not be aware of this, at least when you start your careers. So you can get a head start on figuring this out now, and this will really work wonders for you. So thank you very much for your attention. You guys are awesome. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Take care.